So,
Okay.
Not,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll have that.
so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for what you provided us at the last meeting. Karen's putting some things together that we'll pass out. We have different proposals we're going to run through this afternoon. What we're presenting would be a package proposal. I just wanted to clarify that. So you want to notate that for this one we handed over, and then we'll run through everything. Go ahead and...
Sure. Let's start with these are 5 for
okay.
These guys. I'll stay up.
Okay.
just like a good job, I apologize.
Copy for you.
Thank you.
And we're giving you these in 3 sets. They'll probably be broken up topic-wise, but it all together is one package for today.
Okay. If you guys are ready, we'll go ahead and start on the first packet is basically everything except for wages and pensions. So we'll just have that conversation on those articles first. The first one is Article 5, Union Business and Representatives. Your proposal was for 150 hours of full-time to be added in 5.7. We weren't sure if that was intended to be in addition to what's already included in 5.6, where we are compensating 2 employees while you're bargaining. But just to be clear, our proposal is to replace the language in 5.6. So we would be striking the language that compensates 2 employees to bargain a new contract and adding that we would provide a bank of 100 hours to the union of union full-time per calendar year to be shared by eligible employees within the bargaining unit, authorized by the union lodge president. That was your proposal and approved by the chief. The only thing we did not include in here that you all had in your proposal was that it would be submitted electronically. I'm not sure if that's necessary. All of our time is submitted electronically, so that wouldn't be any different from our normal procedures. And then we also left the language in there that says compensation shall be at the employee's normal hourly rate. Does anybody have any questions or comments on that?
I don't at this time, JJ.
I've got a quick question.
Okay.
I noticed on 5.6 that next to the last line, the last red line, says the union may not roll over unused hours to a subsequent year.
Yes.
Are you guys willing to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're willing to talk about it. That was in your proposal. So we pulled that same language over into ours.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, I think if we're going to strike 5.6, we might want to revisit that and just probably ask for the hours to roll over. There probably won't be that many left to roll over from year to year, but probably not any. But we'd like to discuss that further.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we're open to discussion on that if you wanted to come back with something. Okay, on education incentive, you all proposed adding the language from the MOU for the tuition reimbursement for the academy. That was implemented in 2024, I believe. We were in a really significant hiring crisis. We added that and the $2,500 lump sums. They were intended to be a temporary measure until we could stabilize the pay plan. And I'm not sure that we need to add it permanently to the collective bargaining agreement. We could always come back if we need to and implement it by MOU. I think you all will agree that we've been pretty quick to react and respond to those types of situations. So we just didn't feel like it needed to be included in the collective bargaining agreement. As it stands, the academy program expires at the end of this fiscal year, so September 29th of 2025. And if you all recall, the $2,500 lump sums actually expired in 2024, and we just recently went ahead and extended those through September 29th of this year. So we feel like through those efforts, we've made really great strides in getting our numbers up. We only have 3 vacant positions right now.
I think that's accurate.
So we're always happy to revisit that if we feel like there's a need, but our proposal at this time is just status quo on education. Resignation, Article 16, you all proposed removing probation from the last paragraph. Our proposal is just status quo. We feel like if an employee is on a disciplinary probation, that they would not be considered in good standing. Welcome to have some conversation on that if you all wanted to explain your position. But the city's position is that disciplinary probation or disciplinary suspension, either one, would preclude an employee from being considered in good standing. Sick leave, you all had, I believe, 3 different proposals in sick leave. The first was to convert 50 hours of sick leave to cash in a health fund plan, a retirement health fund. We're not opposed, number one, to exploring that, but we would like to look at that maybe as a little more holistically when we start to look at our supplemental plans that we're offering, including our 457 plan. We just need it's going to require a little research and a little time on our part. We are getting ready to do a benefit comparison, and we'll be doing an RFP either later this year or next year for administrators for our supplemental retirement plans. And so we would be open to looking at it at that time. But at this point in time, we are not proposing to establish any new funds. We are also not proposing at this time to increase the number of sick hours that would be eligible for conversion. So 21.9, our proposal is status quo. 21.10, sick leave. You all asked to redefine catastrophic illness, and we agree. And our proposal is strikes the language in 2110B that defines catastrophic illness and it replaces it with an illness or injury that meets the criteria established by the Family Medical Leave Act for a qualifying event. So we do have the same language in our personnel policies, and that keeps it consistent, and it's easier for us to administer as well. Finally, in sick leave, you all asked to add 2 other things. You asked to increase the max hours per donation from 240 to 280, and we agree, and we are willing to do that. The other last request was in 21.11, you wanted to add mental wellness sick time usage up to 36 hours of the already accrued sick leave. I am not sure that there's a need to add another code for mental health or mental wellness right now. If there's a need for an employee to take any leave for mental health purposes, I know of any instance where that would have been denied or has been denied.
It's never been denied, to the best of my knowledge. However, this was more for that and also overtime, kind of married with the overtime clause.
Yeah. Understood. But our proposal is status quo on that. So that means Article 11, also we're proposing status quo. Holidays.
I do have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
That. The concern around those hours for sick leave and overtime was, we already expressed the concern behind it. Is that different for the police department now than from other city employees?
Actually, you all, the only leave that is excluded from your overtime calculation is sick leave. For all other city employees, it's vacation leave, sick leave, holiday pay. So actually, you're
Above
far above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
22, holidays, you asked to add language in 22.6 for hours worked on a holiday that fall on a scheduled work day. We agree, we concur. What we did was just basically copy the language in 22.5, which addresses a scheduled day off, and we use that same language for 22.6. Whenever an observed holiday occurs on an employee's scheduled work day, and they do work that day, in addition to any comp time or holiday pay provided, they will be paid time and a half for all hours worked on a holiday. Your proposal was for double time and a half for all hours worked on a holiday. This is saying the same thing, except this ensures that we're only talking about those overlapping or concurrent hours.
So I copied the language that was left off of the 20. This wasn't anything we added per se. We just pulled from the 2020 contract. It was left off in 2022.
Okay.
So I don't see the need for a change in verbiage.
Well, I copied the language from 22.5 directly above it, which is.
Well, I copied this from the 2020 agreement. It was left off 2020 in error. All I did was just grab it from 2020. So I understand where you're getting it. I just, I figure since it's already been the practice, we would just use the language that was existing.
We can do that. I don't think it changes anything.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're more comfortable with the language, we can. I'll pull the 2020 contract just to make sure that.
I'm not a lawyer and I know words have meaning, so I just don't know, what any effect this new language would be.
Yeah. Again, it won't change anything. That's the reason you put that language in there specifically is because it's exactly the same as 22.5. The only difference between 22.5 and 22.6 is 22.5 addresses the scheduled day off, and 22.6 is a scheduled work day. But the outcome is still the same.
We can look at it. I'm just
okay. Yeah. I mean, we're okay either way. I just want to be clear that it's time and a half work for any hours on holiday, whether you're scheduled off or not. If you're scheduled on or off, you're still going to get time and a half for your hours that you work, in addition to any straight time or holiday time or comp time that you're getting.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes to double time and a half either way, any way you slice it.
Okay.
I was trying to be consistent with the language that's currently in our contract for 22.5.
I understand.
Okay.
This is consistent.
Yes, this is consistent with what we're doing. It doesn't change our practice. It doesn't change. Yeah, it doesn't change anything.
Okay.
Forgive me, I'm a little scarred from prior administration.
I understand, and we want to be as clear as possible. But honestly, that was my thought was that it would be more clear to be consistent with the 22.5 language, so that our contract at least has the same language in it, kind of consistently throughout. But if you guys want to have any suggestions as to clarification on that, we're open to that. Next is promotion. You all asked us to add language to put a maximum time frame on promotions to corporal. While I appreciate, the intent, we feel like it's certainly, well, first of all, certainly not our intention to needlessly delay promotions. Of course, that doesn't benefit anyone. But we also want to reserve the right to promote according to the current needs, the current eligible candidate pool, and current conditions. So we don't feel like we want to bind the city to any specific time frame for those promotions, just because of unforeseen circumstances. We don't know what might happen.
So what would be an acceptable time frame if an eligible list exists with viable candidates to promote from, and the administration makes the decision not to promote, and that list may expire within the next 3 to 6 months? Okay. What are we going to do when we face something like that?
Well, I think it's going to depend on the situation. Like Karen said, there's not an intent on the city's part to drag anything out, but as a management right, we are concerned with putting set limits there because we don't know what type of situation we might be facing. And so I don't think history that we have would indicate that we drag these things out either.
How long was that spot vacant, David?
11 months.
11 months.
Okay, that's one situation.
It happened once, it can happen again.
It's a history.
It happened once, it can happen again. And if the chief of police, whoever he or she may be at the time, doesn't like the candidates that are on the list, and they don't want to promote any of them, all they've got to do is just wait and let the list expire.
Well, I understand what you've just said in your position, but the city's concern is putting limits on those management rights.
Okay.
And as I'm sitting here today on behalf of the city, it's certainly not the city's intent to try to work around the contract language or to drag things out and to not use the list. But we've got to have that flexibility as a management right. So that's the city's position.
Just know it'll put demands on the sergeant that doesn't have a corporal, and he or she will then have to fill those demands as well. So keep that in mind.
Understood. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then in Article 30, we are proposing, same as you all, a 3-year agreement with a reopener on wages prior to September 30, 2027 for the 3rd and final year of the agreement. Is there any follow-up or questions on that? Any of those?
I just want to say thank you for the change in the catastrophic illness definition.
Sure.
On behalf of the men and women that wear the uniform, I appreciate that.
Yeah, we,
Real quick, it says illness injury. Does that include elective procedures or pregnancy?
anything that qualifies under FMLA.
Okay.
So we would just defer to the FMLA guidelines.
Okay, I didn't know
Okay.
if pregnancy falls under injury or
It does,
illness.
well, it falls under FMLA guidelines.
Okay,
but,
I think my wife was not.
I hear what
if
you're
she-
saying,
If she
yeah.
heard me consider a pregnancy an illness or an injury.
You're right, I don't know if that's.
Well, the term under the FMLA is serious health condition,
Okay,
and so that does encompass.
So we could change the illness or injury to serious health condition in the definition if that would be more consistent with FMLA guidelines.
I saw the I just didn't know if it, again, I'm not a mother and I wouldn't want to, I just want to make sure, because that was kind of the spirit and intent of that, was to make sure, without having any sort of maternity or paternity plan, or time bank in place, we just wanted to make sure that, that was part of the coverage.
You could add or serious health condition.
So we could add or serious health condition, illness, injury, or serious health condition that falls under the guidelines.
That's a
Is that-
defined
is-
term under the act, so that would be one way to loop that in.
Yeah,
But I'll echo what Scott said, we really appreciate that. It's a way for us to really look after our members, being such a small department, that extended period allowing them time to start their family, build their families is
Sure.
huge.
sure. And we're happy to do that. We don't want to do anything that will make it overly restrictive or hard for you all to donate to each other.
I'm gonna tell all my kids they were a serious health condition now.
What's that?
I'm gonna tell all my kids they were a serious health condition.
They also tend to cost them.
Well,
I did have one more question on 21 sick leave, Article F.
Yeah.
With increasing it from 240 to 280.
mhm.
Does this now apply to members to donate to other members who will have catastrophic illnesses, or is that?
Yes, that is the maximum payable to any one employee for a catastrophic illness from a total employee donation. Right now, it's capped at 240, and you all proposed increasing that to 280.
Yeah, that was the intent, was because they could have 200 built up within, a year to qualify for FMLA, but it still left them short of the 480. By going to 280, up from the 240, they can now cover the whole 480 for a 12-week FMLA.
So what I was trying to get is the situation where like we can donate, like Dan Hughes recently. I would be able to donate hours to him.
That, based on the language for that, anything qualifying under, that would qualify for
Okay.
FMLA, not necessarily qualify, so, yes.
Okay, so thank you.
Yeah, if it meets the FMLA definition, it would qualify. And
Yeah, we had a male member whose wife had a baby, and then we were looking to be able to give him hours in support of him. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
that would qualify. Okay, anything else on that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I got a question, real
Yeah.
quick. Never thought about this before. So, yeah, I'm a top-out sergeant, and I donate 10 hours of sick time to a 2-year patrol officer.
Uh-huh.
Their sick time hourly rate is nowhere near my sick time hourly rate.
Correct.
So is my donation based on their hourly rate?
It deducts from your leave accrual, and it adds to their leave accrual. So when it's used at their hourly rate, not yours.
But vice versa, if a 2-year patrol officer donates to me,
Then it's more costly to the city in that respect because it would be paid out at a higher rate. And that's kind of the risk of the whole program. When you're swapping or donating hours from one to the other, it's never going to be at the same rate, and it could be higher or lower. So if someone in your position donates to an entry-level officer, obviously that's going to cost less money than it would have if you had used those sick hours, and then the opposite is true.
So it's not converting to money, it's hour per hour.
It's hour for hour. All we're doing is adjusting the leave accrual bank and paying it out at the whatever the hourly rate of the person receiving the donation.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Article 12, wages. I want to kind of preface this by reminding, all of us in the room that we've seen a really unprecedented time over the past couple of years when it comes to wages, particularly entry-level wages for police officers. As I mentioned before, because of the hiring crisis that we were in, and it's not just us, it's statewide, it's actually nationwide. Agencies all around us were reacting very quickly. We were forced to also react very quickly. We came together with you all and worked out a few things that we've been able to put into place in mid-contract to try and move those pay grades along and make us more competitive and make us better able to recruit. I'm happy to say that it seems to have been successful. Our numbers are up, our recruitment is strong, and hopefully you're seeing a positive benefit from that in the morale of the police department. So I do want to point out, though, that since the beginning of this contract, which was 2022, the starting rate for police officers has increased from 10/1 of 22 to 10/1 of 24, just in a 2-year period, increased by 30%. And that's because of these midterm adjustments that we have come back and made. If you remember, we came back initially with an MOU to eliminate that 6-month increase and bring the first step up to that 6-month number. And then we implemented the $2,500 lump sums to offset that. Then we came back with the academy tuition reimbursement. And then we, in August of 2024, went back to council for an additional increase. So all of that together has, I believe it was necessary. I believe that it was the right thing to do. I'm happy that we were able to get it done, but it has really, really significantly made our numbers go up, and our budget numbers we're seeing the spike. So with that in mind, we also understand that it's important to continue to stay competitive. And we are willing to meet your 5% in year 1. So this proposed pay scale in year 1 is a 5% increase across the board. And in year 2, we're proposing 4% across the board with a reopener in year 3. Anybody have any questions? All right. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Shift differential, right? I think that was one of the other things. Okay, thank you for the reminder. I thought it was done. Okay, the emergency management pay, you all proposed language that would incorporate that MOU language for triple time on a holiday that falls during an emergency management period. Our proposal, and this is similar to our proposal on the holiday pay. It says, if any portion of the declared period falls during a holiday as defined in Article 22, employees shall be compensated at triple time for hours worked on the holiday while the emergency management pay is concurrently in effect. That language is straight out of the MOU, and it does clarify that we're only talking about the hours that are concurrent, where those two types of incentive pays are in effect. So we wanted to be clear about that. Any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Okay.
So just reworded language from the MOU?
Yeah. And no, the MOU says concurrently in effect. And so I just added the language directly from the MOU. The shift differentials, we are not proposing to add those shift differentials at this time. Like I just said, we have seen really an unprecedented spike in our pay grades, in our salaries. The average salary for our police officers, according to just the actuarial valuation, the average salary of those members in the plan has gone up by 22% just from year over year in 1 year. And that's because of these mid-contract increases that we've been seeing. So we feel like at this time it's not prudent, and we want to make sure that our plan remains sustainable. And we feel like it's not prudent to introduce any new additional pays. Did I forget anything else? Okay. If nobody has any questions on that, we can move on to retirement.
Do we have the language, for the 6-month MOU one-time payment to extend it through?
The $2,500 lump sum, but we extended that through September 29th of this year. And we are not proposing to extend that again. That, similar to the academy tuition, that was really implemented to address an immediate need and a crisis situation, and to compensate for eliminating that 6-month probationary increase.
So the MOU will stand separate rather than included in this contract?
The MOU has expired, will expire on September 29th. Actually, the MOU did expire last September, but we inadvertently continued to advertise that and make that promise to our new recruits. So we went ahead and extended it another year, just to make sure that everyone who is currently on board, who has been recruited during that time, can benefit from that lump sum that they were promised.
Okay.
So, but our intention was not to continue it past September 29th of this year.
Understood.
Okay.
Is there a proposal that does reflect returning back to the 6-month increase, probationary increase?
No. When we did that MOU to eliminate that 6-month probationary increase, that was in an effort to try and get the starting salary bumped up in a short period of time. So we said, okay, we'll bump up the starting salary to the 6-month level and eliminate that first step, right? And to compensate for kind of the loss of that 6-month increase, we added the $2,500 lump sums to get us through the transition.
Right.
Now we have, since then, increased our starting salary by an additional 8.5% recently. So we don't feel that there's a need to add that $2,500 lump sum at 6 weeks.
Well,
6
I'm
months.
saying that will the $2,500 lump sum that we did the MOU for be supplanted with the 6-month increase?
That was not the intention.
So
And then-
you're adding a projected 6 months longer to progress to the pay plan. Because if somebody gets hired, they don't get that 6-month bump, they get that step 2 bump. Step 2 is a year later, or 6 months later, technically, so it's gonna take them longer to progress to the pay plan.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Keep in mind, we adjusted that starting salary in an environment where we didn't have a 6-month increase any longer. So, you know, if you all wanted to propose something different, then, you know, we're open to discussing it. But the $2,500 lump sums was intended to be a temporary transitional measure.
I'm okay with that for right now. I do want to go back to the shift differential.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of the members, I am one of them that is a proponent for it. At the conclusion of this contract, we're going to lose about 90 to 120 years of experience. And to replace these types of individuals, you're not going to get Tom Bingham and Chief Smith and Eric Shaughnessy replaced right away. It's going to take some time. We do have succession lines in order right now, but a new wave of recruitment is going to come. And then just beyond that contract, where we start a new contract, thinking long term, we are going to face another 100 years or so of experience leaving. So in the next 3 to 5 years, this department will look totally different than it does today. The reason I'm a proponent of the shift differential is because of the needs of the department and the burdens that this profession has on the employees. If you look at violent crimes for service that the city has, most often it's on that shift differential times that we have talked about for those employees. Easter Sunday alone, we had 3 violent incidences in our city with guns. One of our officers was almost ran over by a car. That's an inherent danger that we know that can't happen, but this is an incentive plan that other police officers in North Florida get, and I would like to see for the men and women here as well. The commitment that we have for this city is so great. The chief does a great job of putting out the news that you can use, and you guys get to see, and the city gets to see, and the residents get to see a lot about what we're doing. But a lot of what we do does not go seen to the public, and that's the burden on our families. Our ability to have work-life balance is strictly prohibited sometimes because of the strong commitment that we have for this city. The unpermitted events, the surging, the concerts, the festivals, we put on so much more than other beach communities do, and some of these communities have shift differential in play. So it's my hope that we can come to some kind of resolution or compromise with respect to that. When we meet again, I'll bring up a secondary proposal. I don't want to strike this topic. I would like to see something on the table. I understand the city's not at this moment, but I hope that when I visit back again, that I can maybe explain a little bit better with some facts and circumstances on why this is such a necessary thing, and in conjunction with the whole package proposal.
Sure.
I feel strongly that this is something that the city needs. The recruitment problem has been fixed. We are seeing great strides with our recruitment here in the city, but that will revisit us at the conclusion of this contract. So I would rather work towards have a plan now for long-term recruitment, even if our numbers right now are not in line with what you guys were thinking. I believe it was 5%, but I would still like to get this topic back on the table and in this contract. And I would love to work with you guys on whatever it takes to get it done. Like I said, the next time we meet, I will have more information, and then hopefully hear back from y'all at that time too.
Okay, yeah, I understand. We're not by any means dismissing or disputing your commitment or your contribution. We are trying hard to maintain a fiscally responsible pay plan and in a really unusually volatile time. So between the pay plan and the pension cost, we are it's our responsibility, part of our responsibility, to make sure that we have something on the table that is sustainable.
So our proposal was 5%. When we meet again,
It was 4.
4. We'll meet again. I'll have some more information for you.
Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Retirement. When we met last time, I told you all that retirement was going to be probably our biggest hurdle to try and get past. And I don't think that that's going to come as any surprise to you all. I did mention last time that we met that the city's pension contribution for the upcoming year has increased to over $1 million. It's $1,047,000. That is a 43% increase over the prior year. That's just in pension contribution alone. This is completely unprecedented. And it's due to a lot of factors. It's due to some that are outside of our control, like mortality tables, but it's also mostly due to the wage increases and the staffing increases. We've added 4 positions. We have seen a lot of movement in the pay scale. And I want to point out that these numbers do not reflect the additional pay increases that we implemented in August of 2024. So next year we expect them to spike even higher. As a percentage of payroll, we are looking at 23.98% of payroll. We haven't seen numbers like that since 2013, and that's when we had to implement pension reform. So we are not interested in talking about pension reform. We have no desire to reduce any benefits, but we are very, very concerned about maintaining and sustaining the plan that we have in effect. And we feel like, with that in mind, that it's not the right time to talk about increasing any benefits. I would want to remind everyone, too, we do have a competitive benefit. We have a really good benefit, in my opinion. We also contribute to Social Security. The city contributes to Social Security 6.2% for your members, and your members are contributing to Social Security 6.2% of their paycheck, in addition to the 7.95 for pension. So it is already on its way to becoming burdensome, and potentially, we're going to have to be looking in the future about finding ways to sustain the plan. So we are very, very cautious and very, very conservative when it comes to those increases. So for that reason, we are not proposing a COLA. As far as the drop interest is concerned, our proposal is status quo on the drop interest. We're currently paying 3.5% on those drop contributions, on the drop interest. 3%, sorry about that.
Is your count 3.5?
Pardon me? No, it's 3. It's 3. I'm sorry about that. In 2024, we had a great year. Our investment returns in 2024 were
Highest in 25 years.
23.11%. But in the years leading up to that, it was actually a loss for the 2 years leading up to that. So we had, in 2022, we had a loss of 16%. So I guess my point is there's nothing that we can really rely on except the volatility of those pension rates, those investment returns. They are not stable, they are not steady, and they are not reliable, and we cannot expect that they're going to sustain a 6% interest rate on the drop contributions for the next 30 years. We feel like the 3% is a guaranteed rate, and it's a good benefit. We just don't have the numbers to support increasing that interest. If year to date for this fiscal year, so 6 months in at March 31st, we were at a loss. We have a negative return of 0.81%. So my point is we just don't have any guarantee of future revenue streams to support that increase. So we're not proposing an increase in the drop.
Would you be open to language that would take into account returns to allow for some sort of sliding scale on the drop? I mean, it's hard for members that are, when they see the fund doing, 23.11% to get 3%, that's a very difficult pill to swallow. And we're not saying that, as one of the trustees, yes, we know it's up, it's down, pensions are for the long haul. Would you guys be open to some sort of language that could put a basement and a ceiling on, that would allow the city the protection during off years, but also allow our members to, because they're still contributing to the fund while they're in. That's the downside of the backdrop, is
Right.
they're still contributing and making that, almost 8% contribution. Again, we're completely sympathetic to the fact that, yes, the pension's been a wild roller coaster, especially the past couple of years, but just being able to maybe put some language in the basement and ceiling.
We would consider it. I feel like that may be really difficult administratively, because if you're talking about, increasing during the good times and decreasing during the bad times, it would have to be on an annual basis. We wouldn't be able to follow it every month. You can't administer the plan that way. But so I think it would be difficult, and I would like to see if there is any other precedent for that, if there are any other plans that have similar language.
I believe there is language, especially across the state, just in the conversations.
Yeah,
that I've
FRS
had.
may have some, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know that with other trustees, conversations that I've had, I do believe there's language out there, so we'll research that.
Okay.
Again, we're completely sympathetic to off years, and we do appreciate that even in the off years, there still is the guarantee of this basement of 3%. But it's I think we'd all, it's just a hard pill for the members to swallow when in their really, really good years, they're still making less than a savings account.
Yeah, but remember the pension plan is a marathon, not a sprint, and we look at it over a 30-year spread, and that all of those ebbs and flows are taken into account and smoothed out over a 30-year period. So naturally, we're going to have highs and lows, but we can't react as quickly, as the market's going to move. So, but yeah, we'll look at it if you have some other language you want us to consider. We are proposing in 29.3 to increase that hard cap from 100,000 to 105. And I think that's everything on pension. You guys have anything to add or anything we need to clarify?
Does the city have any changes or adjustments on any other topics beyond what we discussed right now?
No, I think we've covered everything that you all proposed, and we didn't have anything
To add differently?
to add.
No, I'm
We'll have any thought or discussion about moving the cap completely, because otherwise we're just gonna be moving the cap every 3 years.
I realize that, but when we did do pension reform back in 2013, as painful as all of that was, the pension cap was one of the provisions that we put into place that helped us to achieve pension reform. And again, we were able to benefit from that for the first few years, and now we're seeing the contributions go up, skyrocket again. And so as soon as we remove that hard cap, it's going to cause those contributions to escalate. It's not just the cap. It was we changed the vesting. We made some other changes, but all of that together combined is the reason we were able to achieve some savings. We don't want to be in a position where we have to be like we were in 2013. We don't want to have to come back to any of you and say, we have to do something about pension. So we feel like it's important to keep the cap in there, but I do realize it's going to have to be negotiated, and it's going to have to be looked at and reviewed every 3 years, no doubt.
Keep people from retirement. Keep people from retirement. Keep waiting.
Other way around, it makes me tired sooner.
Yeah. You all want to get another date on the calendar?
Yes, we'd like to move forward with about a 10-day time frame if you guys are You have some dates within that range?
So today's the 1st. So maybe the week of the 12th.